participate even in the maybe auto ink is the area which I look at. Let's see which on second and third.
All right. Well, Sandeep, the question is how will FY26 pan out? So before we get to that, let's just focus on what happened in the past year itself. And FY25, FY25 actually was a challenging year because we had a lot of factors at play. You had a couple of you had the general election that played out. You had a couple of state elections as well. The earnings growth, there was a slowdown out there. And both from the RBI as well as the Fed, well, liquidity was a little bit tight. From the Fed, we didn't get those many rate cuts as was expected. And the hope is that in the coming year, we'll actually see far more rate cuts. In terms of the elections, both you had, the Indian elections that took place, you had the US elections as well, and all eyes now on what President Trump does with regard to the tariffs. But clearly what he said so far has already created some jitters. So the past year was a challenging year, but by the end of it, well, we go home with some mild gains. Close to around 3% gains is what we're seeing on the Nifty itself. It wasn't anywhere as great as what we saw in FY24 when we had a near 30% rally out there. Now moving to a couple of other factors at play. In the past year, what was good was the Nifty was up 3%, but the mid and the small caps, they did much better. They were up anything between 5 to around 8% or thereabouts. So the breadth of the market was much better. India actually underperformed. If you look at it in comparison to, the emerging market peer, the European markets, you had the DAX that was the outperformer. And even the US markets did very, very well. Net, India was a relative underperformer in FY25 if you compare it with the other markets. Well, moving to what did well. Precious metals did brilliantly well. Gold as well as silver, they bucked the trend. But from an India perspective, the good news was, though it was a challenging year, one positive was crude oil prices behaved themselves and Brent crude prices pulled back more than 10%, which is always a blessing from an India economy as well as an India market perspective. And that's something that is holding us in good stead as well. Moving to the top gainers on the Nifty itself, you had the Nifty up only by around 3%, but the new entrants like a Trent, BEL, both of them did quite well. And throw on there Bharti Airtel, Shriram Finance as well as Mahindra & Mahindra. So those are the top gainers from the Nifty pack. But there were some losers. IndusInd Bank continues to underperform. Geo Financial just come into the Nifty. Well, that as well has seen some profit taking in the past 1 year or so. And Hero MotoCorp as well is down close to around 20%. From the broader markets, though, if you got the stock right, well, there were plenty of winners. Dixon Technologies did well. Mazagon Dock was up. PSC, it was all over the place. But by the end of the year, if you bought the stock at the start of the fiscal, you'll go home with double your money. And finally, there were some losers as well from the broader market. So you got the stock wrong, well, you lost a lot of money. Adani Total Gas, Astral, Ola, Vodafone, Sona, BLW, all of them were the top losers in the past year itself. So FY25, we go home with some gains of close to around 3% or thereabouts. We managed to pull back towards the end of the year. All eyes to see on how FY26 will pan out from here on.